Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison.
Hi, this is William Shatner.
It is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
Oh, yeah, what's up, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Yeah, that's right. It is Wednesday. Glad you could join us, although it doesn't feel like Wednesday because we had Monday off. But glad you could join us. A lot to get to today in the show. A lot of great guests. You know, the Aviators, their first year, of course, here in Las Vegas. The playoffs start today. So we're going to have the Aviators manager, Fran Riordan, will be joining us coming up in hour number 3. Mr. X Hollywood Conservative will be joining us in hour number 2. Longtime Hollywood producer. We'll get his perspective from a right-wing perspective, a Trump perspective. What is it like being a Republican and being a Hollywood producer? We'll get to him coming up in hour number 2. And a lot of other stuff to get to as well. And very happy to have Pat Cassell in studio today.
Good morning.
Pat, good morning. I know you have a big announcement to make next week. You can't make it this week, but glad you're here, my friend. Always great to have you in studio. I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. I look forward to it.
A lot to get to today, and I want to start with what I consider an emotional story. You know, it should be emotional to all of us whenever there's a mass shooting and our fellow Americans are, gunned down, plowed down. Whatever term you want to use, it was the biggest mass shooting in American history. It happened, sadly, right here in our backyard, October 1. We're approaching 3 years from the anniversary of that horrific day. And I remember I went to a Vegas Golden Knights game that day. It was a preseason game. I went with a friend of mine from another station. He had asked me to go, and we took the same car together. We went out there. It was an early game. I think it was, from what I would call, a late afternoon game. And I was asked to go to the October 1 Route 91 Festival. I was asked to go. A friend of mine, instead she went with her mom, and she was shot in the back. And her life will never be the same again. Luckily, thank God she survived. But there's so many other stories like her where so many people were injured, even the people that were not injured. They'll never forget that day for the rest of their lives. Neither will I, and I wasn't even there. So I can't imagine the hell that people are going through every single day. Those who lost loved ones, those who saw the carnage, the heroes. I mean, we could go on and on. It was so many great people that day that did so many wonderful things to help out others. But, the point I'm trying to make is, just like after 9/11, there was the grieving process. It never goes away. And that is a sacred ground. Call it what you want. But where that Route 91 festival was, it is a sacred ground. And I'm really frustrated in a lot of different things. Jason Aldean never came back to do a charity concert, which I thought he should have done, as many other artists. I thought that was cowardly of him. I know he went to the hospital the next day. He's never come back. No sort of, Adriana Grande, if you remember the horrible tragedy that took place outside the United States, I gave her so much credit because she did that charity event and raised money for, for her fans and those who lost loved ones. I gave her so much credit for that. But this is a story now that this is excruciating to report, and I'm very disappointed in MGM Properties, and I'll explain why. As you know, those festival grounds on October 1, where that horrible shooting took place, right across from Mandalay Bay, are owned by MGM Resorts. And MGM announced that they have plans to turn that sacred ground where 58 people lost their lives into a parking lot for the Raiders Stadium. Yeah, let me repeat that. Let that just sink in here for a second. The sacred grounds where 58 people lost their lives in the biggest mass shooting in American history, they're going to be turning that into a parking lot for profit. And make no mistake about it, nothing has been announced where any of the money made from that parking lot will be going to the victims and their families. And if you recall, MGM Properties countersued the victims when they sued them. Make no mistake about it, this is absolutely and utterly disgusting and shameful what they are doing with this property, in my personal opinion. So I have the statement by MGM. Quote, "We know that for many, the village property will forever be linked to the tragic loss of life that took place there on October 1. We will never forget the victims and all those impacted by that evening. As the second anniversary nears, we remain committed to being part of the community effort to continue healing and moving forward." And the statement goes on, "In the near term, while plans are underway, the property will revert back from festival grounds to a parking area and will reserve as parking during games and concerts taking place at Allegiant Stadium. Over the coming weeks and months, there will be construction activity near the property to ensure the safety of pedestrians crossing the street towards the stadium." Now, they also did say they will share in plans for a community and athletic center as they advance and support the future community effort around a permanent public memorial. That process begins. Well, that's all nice. But the bottom line is they're not turning it into a memorial first. If you remember what happened after 9/11, the city of New York did a fantastic job reaching out to the victims. What should we do? What are you guys comfortable with? What do you think would be a best way to move forward? And the victims said, look, if you want to build another tower, we're okay with that, but let's build a beautiful memorial here. Let's do it this way. And the city listened. New York listened, and they built a beautiful 9/11 memorial. It is stunning, in honor of all those victims and heroes who lost their lives on 9/11. Don't see that. Don't see anything like that at the October 1 grounds. Now, why is that? Why is that? Is it only about money? Is that what we're talking about here? Because it certainly sounds that way to me. Whatever happened to doing the right thing? Is MGM Resorts going to file for bankruptcy if they don't turn that sacred ground into a parking lot? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to kill their bottom line. That should be a memorial. And if they wanted to turn it into a parking lot, which it appears that they are going to do, why not donate some of those funds to the victims and their families and the heroes? Why not do that? But there's nothing in plans to do that. I see nothing that will be sharing the funds, and make no mistake about it, MGM Resorts, they are going to be making a profit and continue to be making a profit off of that sacred ground where 58 people lost their lives. There was nothing in their plans to donate to the victims and their families. One of those women who was injured badly, her name is Lachey Johnson, and she was asked, what do you think about this? What do you think about this new plan by MGM? Well, she said, quote, "The thought of parking my car there, absolutely not. And those that park their car there, hear my story and let me know how you feel by parking your car there." Keep in mind, this woman has been on the road to recovery for the past 2 years dealing with physical pain and psychological trauma, this poor woman, as many others. It is disgusting. Johnson also went on to say it needs to be the healing garden, the official healing garden, and it needs to be a memorial, and not just for the 58 angels, but a memorial for us to give us some closure as well. Well, not according to MGM, because their first priority is turning this into a parking lot. Their first priority is profit. The big P word, profit. And I asked this question to all of you and those in studio here, Pat and JD, and I'll give out the phone number. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about MGM Resorts turning what is the biggest mass shooting massacre in American history into a made-for-profit parking lot, and not turning it into any type of memorial, not holding any type of...
They mentioned they were going to add a memorial element to it.
Oh, I understand.
The entire thing is not going to be an element, but there's going to be a landmark that states what took place.
I understand that, but what they're doing right now is not. Not.
You have to understand that this is one of the most. This is the entertainment capital of the world, which Las Vegas is, and the Las Vegas Strip, which this property sits on, is probably one of the most profitable streets in the United States.
Let's get to that. Let's get to that. Let me give out the number first, because I wanted to give out the number first. 702-257-5396, the GCI Guys hotline. If you want to chime into this conversation, feel free. 702-257-5396. We're talking about this lot across from Mandalay Bay and how I feel that it is inappropriate what they are doing. Again, that number, 257-5396.
Isn't that ironic, though? The Raiders do not have a parking facility on their grounds, right? And all the land around there is being bought up for people to park cars. So MGM is looking at this like, wait a minute, we need to start capitalizing on it. We have to make our money. To me, that's where I have a problem. Technically, the Raiders are going to be the only team in the NFL without true parking on their grounds. And what's one of the main things about going to a pro game is you want to tailgate. That's on the positive side. But on the adverse side, a casino who a lot of people question how they handled the entire process, now deciding, oh, we're gonna capitalize. We're gonna have parking on our grounds. I mean, I get your point, JD. You're right. We are the entertainment capital of the world, but you would think they would have had a memorial first set up.
Exactly. And this
Now
is
that
their
we're about
statement.
parking.
Well, I think one of the reasons is that they don't want it to be a reminder to tourists that are coming into town that this took place.
That's BS.
I'm dead serious.
Well,
I think
no,
that they're.
I don't believe that.
I agree with him there.
I think they're afraid that it'll scare people away if they're constantly reminded of what took place.
Look at Mandalay Bay's bottom line.
They're going to have something. They're going to have something that'll be a memorial, but it's not going to be one massive shrine like is taking place in New York City. But again, the Las Vegas Strip is one of the most unique streets. Las Vegas Boulevard is one of the most unique streets probably in the world.
Listen, but here's the thing. What they said in the statement is we do plan to create a space on the property
Which I believe they will.
to remember the victims of the tragedy. Now, here's my problem with that. They already have a plan put in space, and construction is already starting for this parking lot. They've already put plans in place to make a profit. What they should have done is they should have put this space in there. That should have been the first thing that they did.
And you don't understand. You don't know if they're going to share profits or not. You have no idea if that's going to take place.
They would have announced
won't
it.
share profits.
They would have announced it. Yes, I do. They would have announced it.
I think that if the pressure is strong enough, something will take place there. But you can't have multiple acres in the middle of a street like this, just totally barren and open,
Corporate
saying, "Hey,
America
people
has
were
ruined the
murdered
Strip.
here." And I think that they really are scared that tourists will be kind of freaked out by it.
Okay, well, I disagree with that assessment completely. You're not putting a sign up that says people are murdered here. We are doing something in honor, in memoriam of the victims, number one. Number two, I don't know if you're aware of this, JD, but MGM countersued the victims and their families.
I'm fully aware of it.
This is not a company, in my personal opinion, that has the best interest of the community. That's just my opinion.
Bottom line is, they want to charge for parking. They want to capitalize on it. The customer service on the Strip has changed dramatically. Where Vegas used to draw people in because it was an inexpensive place to visit, they take your money on the tables. Now it's about taking your money at every turn.
Every single
parking,
place they
clothing,
can.
food. I mean, to go to dinner on the Strip, it's cheaper to go to California to go out to dinner. I mean, I'm sorry, but in this particular case, this is in bad taste. And I really believe if you go over to the Raider Stadium, if you look at all the property around the Raider Stadium, it's being gobbled up because people want to charge for parking.
I wonder if the Raiders want to be a part of this. I wonder if I called the Raiders and I called their management and they said, hey, did you hear about what MGM Properties is doing where 58 people lost their lives? People that are going to Raiders games are going to be parking in that lot there. How do you feel about that? I could almost guarantee you that they would be uncomfortable with it.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
I believe that.
I think they'd be uncomfortable.
I believe that MGM is just trying to move on, and they don't want to have a constant reminder.
You don't think they've already moved on?
I'm just saying that I believe that that's what's going on right now.
Okay, well, there hasn't
And
been
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I do see where they're coming from.
I don't. And I understand that you want to make a profit, you run a business, but there are certain times and places where you need to.
It's the vibe. It's the vibe of the entire Las Vegas Strip.
There are certain times and places where you need to stop and take a step back. Hold on a second. Let me just finish. There are certain times and places where you need to stop and finish, or stop and take a step back and say to yourself, we should do what's right for the community. They're not going to file for bankruptcy, JD, if they do something else with that property.
JD, have you been back to the memorial for 9/11?
I have not.
Let me just say this. What is more profitable than the Manhattan? Okay? And they took the time to honor
That's a good point.
the 9/11 victims. Okay? Now, if you make a shrine down there, it wouldn't turn people away. People will come here and go to see it.
Right.
And you know what they could have done? They could have had a thing where, put money into a cup to give to the victims to help them, because this was probably the most traumatic experience anybody could imagine. Imagine going to a concert and you talk about Jason Aldean not coming back. I don't call him a coward. I mean, can you imagine the PTSD that he's suffering? It was at his concerts.
How about Adriana Grande? Her fans died.
God bless her.
She just doesn't have PTSD, but Jason Aldean does. Let me
Everybody's
tell you
different.
something. If he has
Everybody's
PTSD, then why is it weeks after that he was doing concerts elsewhere? If he had such horrible PTSD,
You make a point. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
psychologically, the impact it affects people differently. I had A former player might get shot in the shoulder his first day on the job as a police officer. My nephew is there, and he laid on top of his soon-to-be wife, who's got his sired.
Yeah.
He gave him his baby. I mean, I sit here and tell you this. That whole thing is ugly, and I think MGM, once again, does what they usually do. Try to make money, screw the people.
But, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Pat. JD, what were you going to say there?
I have nothing else to say. I'm good.
Okay. Nothing.
I'm good to go.
So I just received words from our producer, Johnny, that Jason Aldean is coming back to town in December. Is he going to be donating money to charity? He's doing a show. He's coming back to Las Vegas
I can't
in December.
imagine. His standard fee, I know this for a fact, is about $700,000. I can't imagine he's getting paid his full fee.
Well, I'd like to find that out. And I'd also like to understand why he hasn't done any type of charity concert in the several years since the October 1 shooting. I would like to know. I would like to find out. I would really like to know if he has this horrible PTSD, why is it several weeks after the October 1 shooting, he was doing concerts at other venues? And if he had PTSD and he didn't want to go back to that venue, he could have gone to another venue in Las Vegas. I can guarantee you there are many venues in Vegas that would have opened up their doors for that day to raise money for the families and the victims.
How many of these performers want to work in a venue that's outdoors? I mean, think about it. That setup there. I mean, indoors is one thing. Outdoors is a totally different ballgame.
Right. Indoors is 100% safe. Outdoors, there's definitely an element you have to worry about. Let me ask you this. What if Lollapalooza, a music festival going on for 35 years, you have 200,000 people that go there every single year?
What about Chicago?
Yeah, what if that was shot up?
Well, you do realize that.
I'm just saying, that's why I bring up Lollapalooza. Life is Beautiful. I understand he was scoping out.
Yeah.
He was casing other places. But what if that was shot up and there was 2,000 people that died? What would you do with that space?
You're telling me
would you shut down Lollapalooza forever? Would it be done? Because it's on a 25 or 30 acre plot of land.
You're telling me
in the heart of downtown Chicago.
You're asking.
Would that be one big memorial after the fact?
Okay, you're asking me if 2,000 people lost their lives on grounds anywhere in the United States. You're damn right. I believe that those grounds. The first thing that they would do is put up some type of memorial. Now, am I saying that those grounds will never be used again for profit? No. But the point I'm trying to make, JD, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying.
The first thing you should do is think about the victims and their families. MGM has not done that. If they put up some sort of memorial.
Which they said they're going to.
Which they haven't done. They haven't done it in a couple years. That's the point I'm trying to make. If they put up and said, listen, I don't care. 5%, 10%. Hold on. 5%, 10% of the profits. Something was put towards the victims and their families.
I guess my point is when you just shut down operations for Lollapalooza or something.
I'm not saying that.
Or something of the like that's been very successful for a long time and brought in billions of dollars and been a great experience for people. You are letting the person who committed that heinous crime.
I'm not
you
saying
are
that.
You are letting them win.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree with that either.
Let me tell you something. The MGM's flaw is they should have immediately been planning a memorial. Build something right away.
Right.
That's what they did with 9/11.
Exactly.
Okay? So you immediately you're talking about we're going to do a memorial after the fact. I have to. Generally speaking, I'm as conservative as it gets. This is bull. They're out of their mind. This is about money. I mean, MGM was also the first property on the strip to charge for parking.
Right.
I mean, everything they do, that's for valet parking and everything. I mean, everything they do is geared towards money. Their bottom line. And the way they pay their workers, if it wasn't for Tokes, those workers would starve.
And I think there is a fear right now that with sports betting being states, that Las Vegas is going to lose tourism, and MGM is very involved in that.
I understand, but this conversation should have, in my opinion, shouldn't have anything to do with sports betting. It should have everything to do with the victims and their families. And the fact, Pat's right, the first thing they should have done is set something up for the victims and their families. The bottom line is they haven't done that. It is absolutely disgusting. And I can tell you right now, there are local casinos in town that would have handled a different way. Listen, we got to take a break. And then, we talk about, guess what? A gentleman who moved to Texas. He moved to Texas and left Las Vegas partly because of this Route 91 shooting. Lost his life because of it, because he was one of the victims that was killed in that shooting spree that killed 7 people over the weekend. It's a horrible tragedy. It's a horrible story. So we'll talk about that coming up next, and we'll take your calls to the GCI Guys hotline, which is 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation, 702-257-5396. What do you think they should do with that property across from Mandalay Bay? Do you think MGM Grand is handling it right? Are you okay with them turning it into a parking lot? We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.